Welcome back everyone. So in this session we are going to use JavaScript to fix that password area, and watching this session is not required, but if you like to see, but I recommend you to see it because you see this session and you have an imagination or a little understanding of what JavaScript is. In fact, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are the three essential languages that every web developer must know. So it's not a bad idea to see a little JavaScript and to see how can we actually use JavaScript in our projects. So when we are writing JavaScript code, just like CSS that we had, do you remember we had a CSS and a style.css? And for writing JavaScript, there's actually a script tag, like a style tag that you could write, and you can also attach your JavaScript file. So I'm going to create a new folder and call it JS, okay? And inside this folder, I'm going to create a file and call it scripts.js. Well, usually we call our file styles.css and this index.html, and this is we call scripts.js. So we can go ahead and attach this scripts.js, but attaching a JavaScript file is not with using link tag. We use a script tag for that, and the script tag is usually inside at the bottom of the we can have it at the end of the body tag, and we can also have it inside our head section. So we can go ahead and here, so let's come here and use a script. We have two scripts, a script src to attach it, and a script alone to write some JavaScript code. So this is a script src, and the source is actually you need to go inside JS folder, and in JS folder you need to attach scripts.js, and now we have a script.js and we can write our JavaScript code. Well, in JavaScript, have you seen in CSS we select something and we say we want to change the cursor or we want to change the background? Well, in JavaScript we also select some stuff. For example, in order to select something with JavaScript, we rather use ID. For example, let's get back to, so as you remember, I told not to use ID for CSS selectors, but ID is something that's commonly used in JavaScript. So let's give it an ID and make it this visibility on. I also use it as an ID, but remember, we cannot have similar IDs. We can, for example, as you can see, we have assigned this visibility icon to this element and this element. So this visibility icon is a class. We can actually assign it to multiple tags, but ID is different. ID should be unique. We cannot use same ID for different HTML tags. Don't forget that. So this is it. This is a visibility on and this is a visibility off, and they both have a different ID, and we want to do something. First of all, we want to say whenever user clicks on this visibility on, there's something that needs to happen. So we first need to select that. How to select things in JavaScript? We need to say document dot get element by ID. This document that get element by ID is something that is very used in JavaScript. So I go ahead and say select the element that has this visibility on ID. Okay, whenever user clicks on this, I want to use, there's a function called add event listener. There's something that I need to say. Don't try to understand exactly every single thing that I say in this session, because it's a JavaScript session and we have never had anything in JavaScript. We never had any introduction or anything. So this session, just try to have an imagination of JavaScript and see how JavaScript looks like. And if you manage to understand everything that I say in this session, a plus point for you. It's great. So I'm now selecting this. I'm telling the browser, hey browser, whenever I have a business with this visibility on. I have a business with an element, and that element has an ID visibility on. So what's my business? We have so many different events in JavaScript. For example, user clicking on something could be an event. So click can be an event. Double click could be another event. User focusing on something could be an event. Pressing some key, so we have different events. And each event has a name. So I want when user clicks on this icon, something happens. So the event name is actually click. So I'm actually saying, sorry, what happened? Here I wrote wrong. So this is it. Whenever user clicks on something, I want to, whenever user clicks on that, I want you to call a function, and the function is visibility on. This function is something that I want you to call. Okay, and we can write the name of a function and write that function in another way, but we can also write the function right here. We can say function parentheses and brackets and write our codes inside this. So in JavaScript we always have a reaction for the action of the user. The action of the user is clicking on this visibility on, and the reaction of us, we write the reaction here. And for the reaction, let's test something. Let's hit Ctrl+Shift+I to open this inspect area, and we can go inside console section, and inside console section we can write for example alert something, alert hello. We want to see what does this alert function do in JavaScript. Hello, this is what alert does. Okay, so this section is to check out the elements. This section is actually used in JavaScript. So this is it. I want to say alert something, alert hello to you. Okay, if I manage to see this hello to you, it means I have managed to come inside this successfully, and it's a good news. But we have a problem, because do you remember the last time that we hit Ctrl+Shift+I, and inside our console it was telling us that we have an error, and it's telling us that I cannot add this event listener to the thing that you said. It couldn't find anything to attach this to it. For example, we are going to go ahead and select anything that has this visibility on ID. It's true that we have a typo here, but we have also the typo here, so it's actually okay. So the problem is where we are attaching this script.js inside our head section. When it so our code will be executed line by line. It executes this everyone. When it executes this and comes inside this script.js, well, there is nothing with this ID, because it first comes inside this and then comes here. So that's why people we need to use our scripts inside and put it inside at the end of our body here, at the end of our body. And true, we told you that this body area is a place for the content that we are going to show to the user, but in this choice we have no other choice. We have to put it there because we want first everything to load everything, and after everything got loaded, then we are going to attach this script.js. So putting scripts at the end of body tag is actually common, and is an exception. You can make an exception for that one. So hit Control S. Let's come back here, hit refresh, and hit Control Shift I. And as you can see, we no longer see that error, and forget about that one again. So when he hit click on this, we can see we are able to see this hello to you, which is actually a good news, and it means we are inside this. So we need to have a reaction for this action that that user just did. We have so many reactions for this. The first reaction that we need to make is actually we need to set the display of this to none. Okay, set the display of this to none, and this visibility on, and make this visibility off visible. So let's come back here and make that display none. Display none. So when we change the display of these two, actually the icons will be changed. So again, we need to go ahead and select something. We are going to select document.getElement. So this visibility on must be selected, and there's actually something, a method. So we had a method, and that was add event listener. There's another thing, and that's CSS. Let's search how to, because I rarely use how to change CSS with JS. Because I rarely use JavaScript, I actually use Vue.js and things like that more often. And let's use the link from Stack Overflow, and this is it. It's actually telling us, for example, here it says document.getElement by something. This is class name. I want to change CSS. Oh, okay. .style.color. Okay. So I actually create a variable here. I create a variable and call it on BTN. Okay. This on BTN is actually my visibility on, and we will have an off BTN, visibility off. Okay, so we have this on BTN here. Let's get back to our HTML code. This is our on BTN and this is our off BTN, and we need to change the CSS of them. So let's go ahead and say our on BTN, actually we need to go into the style and set the display to none. Okay, and for our off BTN, let's go ahead. For off BTN, we actually need to set the display to inline block again, right? So let's go back here, hit refresh, and when I click on this, as you can see, the display of both of them changed. And actually, let's move these two variables so that we do not have to repeat our codes so much, and use variable instead of this document.getElement by ID. This is something that we can use for our on BTN. Whenever user clicks on this on BTN, these are the things that I want you to do. This U was browser. I was talking to browser. And whenever user clicks on this off BTN, we are going to add an event listener. The event is actually click. Okay, and we are going to call a function, and the function is this. Actually, we can put the semicolon here, so we can copy this to here. So actually, we are saying that the whenever user clicks on the off BTN, we actually need to change this to inline block and change that to none, right? So again, I repeat that you do not need to exactly and completely understand this session, because this session is about JavaScript, and when you have no introduction, understanding these JavaScript things becomes a little hard. So hit refresh. So when I click on this, okay, and when I click back again, this is one thing that we have done. The other thing is actually to change the attributes of this input type password, because look at here, we have an input here, input type password, and it has an ID of password. So we can go ahead and create another variable and call it pass input or pass input, and the ID of that is password. So we have our pass input in another variable, and we can go ahead and change its style, or maybe we are going to change its attributes. You can see its input type password. We are going to change the type from password to text and from text to password. Okay, so when the visibility on btn is clicked, we need to set the type to a text. So we need to set type to text. This is how we make comment on CSS. So this is where it's, so since again I use JavaScript very rarely, change at in JS, I need to search for that. Set attribute is something that is used for that. So let's see set attribute, how it's actually used. Button.set attribute this is how we use. So it goes ahead and sets a name attribute, and this is the value of the attribute. So we can go, we have our password input, we can go set attributes, and the attribute of type, we need to go set the attribute of the type to text. And when user clicks again on this, so remove that comment, we need to set the type to password again. So we need to change it back to password again. So let's come back here, hit refresh, let's type something here. So this is what happens. So we finished what we wanted to do, and this is actually how JavaScript looks like. In JavaScript, we take an action, we take a reaction for the action of the user. User makes an action, we make a reaction. User makes action, we make reaction. This is how JavaScript looks like. So this is it. We do not have a sum up section, obviously, because learning everything in this session was not required, but I wanted you to see, if you're interested, that how can we actually use this in CSS. And there's something else that I need to mention. Do you remember in W3 schools when we any property that we used, for example, let's see CSS properties, okay, for example, border radius in JS. Do you remember that I showed you a picture from this border radius thing, and inside everything that we had, it told us the default value. What is it? Is it inherited, no or yes? And there's another thing called JavaScript syntax. What is this JavaScript syntax? Well, here we cannot use hyphens here. For example, this display is here, we can set the display, but if I want to set the border radius, well, in JavaScript we do not have these hyphens, so it's causing some problems. So that's why instead of border radius, we write border radius like this. So that's why any CSS property that you see has a JavaScript syntax as well. So that's what it means by a JavaScript syntax. And so this is it. This is for this season and this session. We finished this mini project and this session and this season, and hope to see you in the next season.